hiding in the dark, you can move forward. Don't worry, we still can't see you. You are fine. Just come forward.
We changed.
I think, oh, yeah. Welcome, everybody. My name is Kadria Ahmed, otherwise known as Ola Okunshoyinka. I've been drafted in because sadly Kadria, who in her own right is well known and popular, but sadly she's not been able to make it at the last minute, so I've been drafted in. I'm neither female, I'm not particularly known for being very spiritual, so my qualifications are only that I'm the husband of the director of Ake Festival. Nevertheless, I think I can make a go of this, and the great thing is that it removes all pressure. I don't even need to know their names really, because they told me literally 5 minutes ago. So all pressure is off, but forgive me if I make any missteps. But may I warmly welcome you both to Ake. I know this is not your first time. This is your first time. Now, in terms of introductions, therefore, I'm going to keep it fairly brief. It's basically what I know. But I know Mona is a very well-known Egyptian Muslim feminist. Is that a good summary?
For now.
Yeah. I will still let them tell you a bit about themselves anyway. And she was here in an earlier edition of Ake, but she's also, of course, a well-known author. Headscarves and Hymens, I believe. And she is obviously going to be of great interest in this discussion, particularly bringing some very, shall we say, robust views to this whole discussion. Martha is, to me, I've not met you, but her story and her career and her profession is absolutely fascinating. Of course, you all know that Nigeria, particularly the Yoruba, are very well connected to Brazil through history, through exchange of our people, and of course culture and religion. And Martha is in the Yaolorisha, in the religion of, you have to, how do you pronounce it? Candomblé, and I'm sure she will explain a little bit more about that. But that alone is, fascinating. But I believe you also work in education. You teach English in a school, yeah. Okay, you have a school, an English school. So we couldn't have two better discussants to talk about women in spirituality. So that's my introduction. Just so that we can know the audience, can we have a show of hands? We should be able to tell, but in this light we can't. How many men are here? Let's see the hands. Oh, good. We got a good nearly 50%, and clearly we can work out the difference, but just for the hell of it, the women, please. Oh, that's pretty much 50-50. That's fantastic. Okay, so what I would like to do to kick off is actually let both the panelists say a few introductory words, either about yourself or about something that's burning that you want to say to the people before we get into the meat. We'll just go with the flow from there.
First of all, thank you for having me. It's my first time in Nigeria, and it's an honor. It's a special thing because for Brazilian people, Orishas, independent of religion, is the only way that we have to connect to our ancestors. We don't have names. We don't have our history, actually. So through Orisha culture and religion, we can keep part of us inside of us. So I would like to thank you. About myself, so I'm a Brazilian girl, a simple one. I was raised by a single mother. She was a maid. And I was there, just observing. And I decided when I was a kid that life wasn't for me. And this spirituality have been give me this support, this help to see beyond simple things. It's a guidance. So as a person, I still simple. As a woman, I really like to enjoy a group of women and share stories about powerful women. And religion is good for that, because we have tales. As an entrepreneur, I have been doing in this last 2 years a different thing. 2015 was the time when I identified the best moment to do my transition in terms of career, and I start with this business. I wasn't there when they opened the school, but I arrived there and I changed a lot of things. And the thing is, we are teaching English to Brazilian people, bringing black culture to the content. This is the point. In bringing black culture in Brazil, global black culture in Brazil is something really different, because black people are outside of media communication. Black people, sometimes we are not even considered customers. They just have propagandas and advertisement with white people. As you can see at the novels, black people are always maids and nannies and bad people. So bringing black culture for the content, global black culture after 2015, we can change a little bit. And we are 90% of women inside Ebony English. This is the point. So I'm simple, I'm here to enjoy you.
Thank you very much. Round of applause, please. And same to you, just a little introductory talk.
Sure. I don't know how many of you were here in the last session, but if you were in the last session, you're going to hear me say my article of faith again, which is fuck the patriarchy. And I will connect that to women in spirituality, because it has a lot to do with the work that I do. I straddle various disciplines and identities. I mean, I was born in Egypt. My family moved to the UK when I was 7, and then we moved to Saudi Arabia when I was 15. And that move to Saudi Arabia really set the course for my life. It basically traumatized me into feminism. But it also taught me that there are different ways to be a Muslim, and that the Islam that I was seeing in Saudi Arabia was very different to the Islam that my family practiced at home. But I also began to wear a hijab when I was in Saudi Arabia. And I used to say that I chose to wear the hijab at the age of 16. But now at the age of 50, and I began this a few years ago actually, especially in the run-up to writing my book, I've really wrestled with the question choice. When it comes to women, when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to religion, because there's such a patriarchal and misogynist stranglehold on most forms of religion. I know when I say that, when it comes to cosmological religions, many women will tell me it's different. So I'll stick to Abrahamic religions. I'll stick to Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. And so that 16-year-old that I used to be, who thought that she had chosen to wear the hijab, that also set into motion that long struggle, that long wrestle with the word choice. Because I question what choice women really have, whether it's a Jewish woman who wears a wig after she gets married, or shaves her hair and then wears a wig after she gets married, or if it's a Christian woman who becomes a nun and then has to cover her hair. And I will take that into other religions as well, like Hinduism, that also has a modesty code. So a lot of my work revolves around this idea of choice and women, and the burden that is particular to women and girls when it comes to what I call modesty culture. And that cuts across the Abrahamic religions especially, but it cuts across other religions as well. So that 16-year-old took 8 years until she could take off her headscarf, take off her hijab, So I was 25 by the time I took off my hijab, and I had moved back to Egypt, where I was encountering a different kind of challenge for my identity as a Muslim. And it was the challenge of the growing power of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, of Salafist groups who are more conservative than the Muslim Brotherhood and who were funded. And a lot of this growing conservatism in Egypt, especially in the 1980s and 90s and up until now, but it really began with an oomph in the 1980s, I would say, funded by Saudi petrodollars. The Saudi Arabians have been very good at promoting this extremely conservative version of Islam. And in response to that, the Egyptian regime was not willing to allow these conservative groups to outdo them. And so, to use another term from another religion, they became more Catholic than the Pope. So they would put on TV all these extremely conservative clerics, so that when the Muslim Brotherhood would say to them, you know, you're godless and you're allies with America, the great Satan and all this, the Mubarak regime, and Mubarak couldn't care less about religion, but the Mubarak regime would put on TV all these clerics for whom the first thing to prove piety and goodness was to cover women up. So I took off my hijab in Egypt as this wave of Egyptian women were putting on their hijab, and now in Egypt we have at least 90% of women who wear some form of veil. In the 1960s, when my mother was at university, she told me that only 2 or 3 women in her class wore a hijab, and now it's almost 90% of women. So the Muslim Brotherhood, the way I describe it, engaged in then a social revolution that I believe we are now unraveling through a new social revolution that was inspired, and the catalyst for it was this revolution in 2011. Because many women joined that revolution. Many women joined that revolution in hijab and in niqab, the face cover. And then many women went home and said, okay, hold on. All these men that I marched in the streets with, all these men that I was risking my life with, you know, how better are they than this regime who oppresses everyone? And one of the things that I say over and over is that, and I consider this a spiritual thing too, is that what I think women's revolution and our biggest struggle is dismantling patriarchy, yes. And we dismantle patriarchy by recognizing what I call the trifecta of misogyny. This isn't the Trinity now. This is not the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. This is the president or the state, the street, and the home, specifically the bedroom. Because that trifecta of misogyny together oppresses women. And this is where I place myself in the middle as a Muslim woman. Because after I left, so I moved back to Egypt, I became a journalist, I took off my hijab, I became a journalist, and then I moved to Jerusalem. I was a Reuters correspondent in Cairo, and then I moved to Jerusalem with Reuters news agency. And I chose to go there, even though when you go as an Egyptian, you're considered a spy by the Egyptian regime, a spy by the Israelis. People think that the Mossad has recruited you, you're a sellout, you're a normalizer, you're a Zionist, blah, blah, blah. But I chose to go there because I go to places I'm not supposed to go. And in Jerusalem, I lived in a neighborhood in West Jerusalem where the women and the men interacted just like the Saudis did, just like the Salafis did, except they were called ultra-Orthodox Jews. The man walked 10 steps ahead, the woman had 10 kids, she was wearing a wig or a head covering, and it's the exact same dynamic. So my lesson in Jerusalem was, this isn't about a specific religion. This is about all these Abrahamic religions, which are inherently patriarchal, which are by men and for men, and I'm seeing it being played out, whether it's in Saudi Arabia, whether it's in Christians in Egypt who are very conservative, both because they're a minority, so you've got multiple levels of minorities trying to protect their identities in a very hostile and very bigoted state called the Egyptian state, but also just because of the general conservatism in Egypt. And then I moved to the US in 2000. And when I moved to the US in 2000, I didn't come up with this phrase, I think many people have used it, but what I like to describe my move to the US as is when Muslims go on Hajj, and I've been on Hajj 4 times, when Muslims go on pilgrimage, which is the 5th pillar of Islam, what we often experience in Mecca, and Malcolm X talked about this when he became Muhammad Shabazz, what we experience is people from all over the world. We recognize that Arabs don't own Islam. We recognize that Islam is a global religion, and we see it in all the different identities that are there around the Kaaba going round and round. And that is what I experienced when I moved to the US, but it was a different kind of pilgrimage. Because what I experienced in the United States was a progressive Muslim community in which I was accepted as I am. And this was taken to another level when in 2009 I went to Malaysia, the Malaysian capital Kuala Lumpur, where I went for the launch of a movement called Musawa. And Musawa is the Arabic word for equality. And Musawa is the movement for equality and justice in the Muslim family. And it was founded by Muslim women and some men to challenge all those patriarchal notions, whether it's a man's ability to marry 4 wives, child marriage, lack of equality in inheritance, a whole bunch of stuff that we as Muslim women are supposed to shut up about because we're told this is what God said. So this is just a kind of a summary, and I'll go into details more about each of those things. But so this Musawa for me was the ultimate pilgrimage, because this idea that God said shuts me up is what I fight against. Because when I argue with you about LGBTQ issues or patriarchy or feminism, we can argue. As soon as you say to me, God said, my response is, well, bring your God down here so I can argue. Because if I can't have that argument, then this is not something that is going to go anywhere.
Thank you. Now, it's very interesting, that journey, but also the picture that you've prized as being that religion does not and has not treated women very well. Now, you're in the Yalorisha, and that's, I guess, a kind of priest, and that's one thing maybe we don't find very commonly. It's beginning to happen in the Abrahamic religions. So you probably have a different story of how religion treats women, their status within that religion. So maybe we could see a little bit of that contrast.
Yeah, I was thinking when you were talking, I was listening to you and comparing. So in terms of oppression, we are in total different position considering Candomblé. Only Candomblé. I have to make clear for everybody that we have issues with patriarchy in Brazil too. If you go to evangelicals, you are going to see it clearly. But about Candomblé, the place that I am, my family is, we are fundamentally, predominantly, this is a difficult word for a Brazilian person, women. This religion was founded by 3 women coming from Africa. They were slaves, first of all, when they started there, but after that, they founded the first Candomblé worship in Brazil. And this tradition keeps, we have a lot of godmothers. We call Yalorisha godmother in our family, our community, as God family or mother family. So we have a lot of women inside Candomblé work against the brotherhood problems, because we have, it's little comparing to a Muslim picture, but we have. But we are really working inside this religion, and our spirituality inside or outside religion is leadership. Because, for example, I'm the new generation. I am 42. I am 16 years of initiation. Thank you. And I see a lot of girls around 20s just thinking, Marta is a mother, Marta is working, Marta is traveling, and Marta is also in Yalorisha, so I can do the same and be free. Because at the beginning, if you were Yalorisha, and even a Babalorisha, you have to work only for religion. This is a problem, because you can imagine me, as you are looking at me here, working to a big company. I used to work, my last 25 years, I was inside big companies like multinationals, and every Friday I was wearing white clothes and saying, good morning, folks, today is Friday, and please don't invite me for any coffee, because it's Obatala Day. I was there bothering everybody because I was black. I am a woman, so you know it's a problem. And I am a Yalorisha too, so it's too much. It's too much for them. because we have that hypocrisy inside everything. So everybody goes to religion, but everybody hides religion. And part of the work of women inside Candomblé is make a statement. I'm a black woman, I'm inside Candomblé, I'm a godmother, and I still a regular person with dreams, studying, working, raising my kids, getting married and everything. I can do it, and it comes natural. We have the power to produce life. This is other thing that we produce inside Candomblé. We are initiating people, so we are bringing ancestor, we are bringing healthy, we are bringing wealthy. We are making people see different points about victory, for example. Sometimes we have to fail to understand how to win. And Candomblé is a very open space because we have gay men there, gay women there. We have everybody, and the sexual choices are not our point. We are just working. But we are predominantly women working inside Candomblé and making statements everywhere, because in the last century, police used to go to the worships and hit godmothers because this religion was demonized still, but obviously we are in almost future considering this thing. So my history in the history of women inside Candomblé is different because we are the base of religion. So we have orishas, female orishas, we have Yami or Shorongá, and the power is infinite. We can't even describe the power. They have the power to manage everything for good and for bad. And this is a woman power. This is the point when we have problems in Candomblé too. Because sometimes men just don't want to give us the power. Or they think that they can take this power. And it's a kind of conversation. You have to wait to take your rights inside the religion. They put rules to make women behind. But they are not strong enough. They are not strong enough because we are there. And actually, contemporary, in terms of contemporary, be a person inside, be a woman inside Candomblé, it's a statement. It was for me, but the new generation is bringing it strongly because they want to find themselves. Women, when they read that stories about Iemanjá, Oxum, Oya, just managing the world through nature, they want to be like them. Like, oh my God, I'm Omo Iemanjá. Oh, I have the power, for example, to produce life and feed my son by my own body, and I'm powerful. Things that men say, be a mother, it's just to be a mother. Manage everything, it's just to manage everything. So when they have a stomach pain, they are like, I can't even survive. So this is the point when youth is coming to orishas independent of Candomblé, because we have Ifá as a traditional religion too, but youth is coming to see, hear, and feel this religion because of women.
Thank you. If I could, just a brief follow-up question then. So here we have a religion that was started by women, and that women have a very influential and powerful position. Is it going in the same direction as Mona has explained? You know, are we men, are the Candomblé, the men who are in Candomblé religion, going to start saying, fuck the matriarchy, you know, I can't handle this? Or are you showing how it should be done? Or, you know, is the oppression and the...
It's not the opposite oppression. So, we have really clear position inside. Men used to do something. Even though in São Paulo we have men have to cook, have to clean, have to do everything like women, because depends on the family that you are or the place. It's still patriarchy, like doing nothing while women are working. They just go to do specific things. Not in São Paulo. In São Paulo they do everything, and we work together. We work together, definitely. But I think it's a struggle more than elders, more between elders and youth than between women and men inside Candomblé.
Fascinating. Thank you for that insight. Mona, when you were last here, you probably don't remember, but I stood up and asked you a question. You do remember it? Okay. So I'm going to follow up that question. You've made a very good case, or the women, for example, the group that is coming up in the Musawa, who are challenging the tenets that have been passed to them by the men, mainly, and things that may not even be in the scriptures that have been, or certainly were not so extreme. They've been turned to an extreme form to use to repress women. They are being challenged. And you are bringing out more and more things that are basically saying this was invented by man to put us down. Now, and this is a follow-up to that last question, so in the same vein, are you not challenging the religion itself by saying, look, the religion was invented by man to oppress women? What's your feeling about that?
Okay. I was hoping we would get to that eventually anyway, because you have to get to that eventually. You know, I'm at the stage right now where I'm not really concerned if God said that or a man said that. What I'm concerned with, it's 2017, and if anything is used to harm women and girls in the name of God and religion, it is wrong and it must stop. And I will not sit and fight with people over, is this authentically from God? Was this something that the prophet said and was relayed to us wrongly? It doesn't really concern me. What I'm concerned with is equality and justice. And since I was last here, several things have happened to kind of like play that out. And I think they all fall under the theme of we're not waiting for permission anymore. You know, there's this idea that you have to wait for permission to be free. You can't wait for permission to be free. No one is going to give you permission to be free. You must free yourself. And there are several examples that I want to share with you about us freeing us. And I think I'd mentioned, but I want to bring this back quickly because I'd mentioned it last time, and I think that's why you asked me the question. So one of the things that has been most inspiring about us freeing us and not waiting for permission was in 2005, when the black American scholar Amina Wadud gave herself the title of Imam, because we're talking about women's ordination, yeah? We don't have official ordination of women in Islam, as Catholics don't, as you know, as many of the Jewish denominations don't. So, but Amina Wadud is a scholar. She has studied jurisprudence. She has studied Al-Azhar. She is fluent in Arabic. She has many books that can teach you everything you need to know. Her last book was called Inside the Gender Jihad. So Amina Wadud, by all terms, is qualified to be an imam, and yet she is denied this title imam. So she gave herself, deservedly, the right to be imam, and in 2005, in March of 2005, she led the first public Friday prayer in which women and men prayed side by side, and Amina Wadud was the imam. And the call to prayer was given by a woman. So there is Amina Wadud, there's 50 women, including me, and 50 men. It was one of the most moving events of my life, and I will repeat again that I was one of 2 women who prayed without my headscarf. I prayed next to a man, and I prayed on my period. Now those are 3 whammies, right? 3 whammies. Just by saying this I prayed on my period thing, I was speaking in Paris, and a Muslim man got up, and he actually had the fucking nerve to say to me, "You prayed on your period? It hurts me deeply. It hurts me deeply to hear that you prayed on your period." I'm like, dude, what the fuck does my period have to do with you? Why would it hurt you deeply? This is between me and God. It hurts me deeply. I'm like, you go pray. So this obsession with our bodies and what comes out of our bodies, which is why I keep saying, stay out of my vagina unless I want you in there, including my period. So, what Amina Wadud did, an Indonesian Muslim woman scholar, gave a statement to the media at the time, and she said what Amina Wadud did is a reminder to women to stop waiting for permission. And that has been happening since I last came to see you. Because this year alone, so there's been at least 2 other mosques, they're called. But just 3 months ago, a Turkish German Muslim woman who's a friend, I know her, she's a friend of mine. She's called Shireen Atesh. Shireen is a lawyer, and she has defended many women in domestic violence cases, and she has been the subject of an assassination attempt by the husband of a woman who she was defending in a domestic violence case. So Shireen, who also identifies as a progressive Muslim woman, said, you know what? No more these mosque spaces where women are put at the back, or women are put next to the garbage and the shoes, or in many places there's no space for women at all. She created a mosque for women in which the LGBTQ community is welcome, in which women can lead prayer, in which queer people can lead prayer, in which you don't have to wear your headscarf, and in which if you cover your face you're not allowed to go in. She has since made an exception and said that if you show your face, and I'm saying this because I said this at a school in the UK and I had 4 Muslim girls walk out. How can you ban a woman in niqab? I'm like, excuse me, all the mosques are open to you. You're coming to this one mosque and you're complaining about it, but anyway, that's another issue. I fight so many things, like 10 million fucking fights every day. But anyway, it's the other thing about not waiting for permission that I think is really important to this discussion about spirituality and dismantling religious patriarchy, yeah? Especially heteropatriarchy, is that there are more and more Muslim LGBTQ groups, and Muslims openly identifying as Muslim and LGBT or Q or I or plus or A or all of those words in the queer rainbow. And that is really important. Why is it important? Because when I was speaking at that school in the UK, and I said all this stuff and how I increasingly identify as queer and I'm not monogamous and I'm Muslim and I continue to identify as Muslim, it was for 15 and 16-year-old girls. And it was a large, so the school was a school, this community in the north of England, and many of the girls in the school were Muslim, British Muslim girls. The first girl who stood in line to talk to me privately, she said to me, what do you think of honor killings? And I thought she was doing a school project. And I launched into my, well, you know, it's not just Islam, it's conservative cultures everywhere, it's patriarchy, blah, blah, blah. She goes, no. She goes, I'm afraid my family is going to honor kill me. It was horrifying. And I asked her why. And it's because she's a lesbian. She's 15 years old, she has a girlfriend, and she's terrified her family will kill her. So she was like, what should I do? Luckily, there is a movement in the UK called Iman, which in Arabic means faith. So it's I-M-A-A-N. If anybody in this room is Muslim and queer, you don't have to come out to me like this girl did, but I encourage you to go and look for Iman LGBTQ. And there are others as well. There was a group in the US called Al-Fatiha, and there's also an LGBTQ friendly space in Canada. We're everywhere. And I put this girl in contact with Iman LGBTQ and another counselor who has a camp for young queer people of color. And I said to her, listen, your #1 priority is to survive. Do not come out to your family. You have to finish school, you have to get a job or go to university because I want you to survive. That's your #1 priority. So all of these examples of people not waiting for permission and liberating ourselves. And I do all of this again as a Muslim, because as that 50-year-old that I told you in the last panel I am, it behooves me to challenge all of these things, to show young people out there who have to wait in line to ask me, what if my family kills me? It behooves me as this 50-year-old who can go to Kuala Lumpur or come to Abeokuta or be in the north of England, to connect those young people with organizations that can literally save their lives, and to tell them, you can be who you are and also be a Muslim. You do not have to choose. Do not wait for permission.
It's a powerful message. Don't ask for permission to be free. Right, we have just under, well, I'll stretch it to 10 minutes left, so I'd like to open it up to questions. I think the 2 panelists they have so much to give, so I'm going to limit the questions. I'm going to take one from each bank. We'll take all the 3 questions, and then we'll let the 2 panelists answer whatever they wish out of that. So we have one hand here. No, that's all I'm taking for the middle, but I don't see anybody. Okay, we have one hand at the back on the left there. And anybody from this side? Okay, the lady who is jumping up and nearly hitting the roof. You're taking their slot, so nobody from here now. The lady in yellow there. So that's 3. 1, 2, and 3. Please introduce yourself and then ask your question as briefly as you can.
My name is Aishat. I have been a female Muslim and a female Christian. And I find that most times in religious patriarchy, from what I've experienced, I find that it's women most times that actually enforce these things and tell you, oh, as a woman you can't do this, oh, as a woman you should do that. I would like both of you to comment on these women and how you feel they have arrived at this place they are now. Thank you.
I will take several.
3 questions and then so that you can choose.
I think we need another panel because I want to talk about period.
Periods.
You can see how tricky Brazil can be.
We need a period panel. Oh, no. Next year, the P word.
That will make me a menstrual moderator, yeah?
Hi, my name is Atonda. My question is for Mona.
Can you wait? I can't see you. Where are you?
In the corner by the A.
Okay, hello. Yes.
Yeah, I should probably start by saying that I love you and I love your work, and I am not. No. It's important for me to say this because the question I'm going to ask might seem ignorant or okay. So I should probably say that I'm not much of a Muslim myself, but my question is, how do you balance these ideas? For example, you said you prayed without your hijab, and I'm saying, how, if the religion says this, and you are not doing what the religion says, how do you come around and say proudly that you are part of that religion? It's just very confusing for me. Don't you feel like you are creating something else for yourself that is not exactly that thing that you are following, and you are coming around to say you are part of that thing? It's just I'm not trying to be. I'm just really curious. Yeah.
Thank you. And the lady, just one more. The lady there.
My name is Sayadele Olofintuade. I love you, Mona. I follow you on Twitter. My question is actually about traditional religions, because I know you were talking about Brazil. Sorry, I don't know your name. Martha. I hope I got it right. Anyway, so I'm fascinated by traditional religion, especially in Nigeria, because I've been in conversation with people who are Oshun worshippers and stuff like that. And I remember a particular encounter this year where I was told outrightly that Nigeria's traditional religion considers LGBTQ people animals, that it's in an Ifa corpus, and she sent the corpus to me. And I remember you said that actually no, like maybe the way you practice in Brazil, that you don't actually care about who somebody's sleeping with. You're more concerned about their spirituality. And I'm thinking, so if Christians are saying LGBTQ people are sinners and they are in hell already, and the Muslims are saying, cover up, we don't want to know what you do in the dark of your house, because I live in a predominantly Muslim community presently, and the community is even like a local one. They don't go to school, so it's not like some middle class community, like the real people that are they don't understand all this English we're speaking here. And these women, I've had a lot of experiences with women who are bisexual and women who are queer, and they're Muslims, and they cover up, and they wear niqab, and they do all that. So I'm not really like, if Islam says that, and Christianity says that, and I say, okay, so like, I've seen all these things, and what is Ifa, for example, saying? And it's saying Ifa thinks that LGBTQ people are animals. So where do you find succor? Why do you bother then? I'm irreligious. I'm nearly an atheist. I don't, like you said, I'm not seeking permission from a God to be who I am. I can be anything I like. But I'm worried about other women who have faith, women who believe. I'm more concerned about the women. I don't care about the men, sorry.
Thank you very much. So I'll come to you first, Martha. This lady's question here, but also if you want to talk about the period issue as well, please go ahead. We'll try and be as fast as possible, so we got about 5 minutes to play with, so go ahead. The traditional religion, how do they stand? How does your religion stand on this issue of LGBTQ? Why are you okay, or should you be okay? Because even if is not so happy with it.
This is another trick point, but Candomblé is the first religion in Brazil to receive LGBT people without discussion. Because inside this religion, nobody cares about your sexual life. Inside worship, we have our obligations, we have our not brotherhood, but we have siblings, we have people that we care. So nobody cares about your sexual life. But tricky points. Sometimes people feel confused because if you're a man, but you're a gay man, you are inside Candomblé, they want to wear skirts. It's not allowed. The same for gay women. They are inside Candomblé. They sometimes are going to physical transition, and they have to wear like men, because inside religion, in front of spirituality, in front of ancestors, we have to consider our body gender, not the mind gender, because sometimes the gender that you have on mind is different in your body. So it's tricky, but nobody is going to oppress anybody inside Candomblé because it's gay or not gay. Nobody cares about that. Ifa in Brazil is not really big like here, but the new generation is different, and we can see gay men inside Ifa too. I think it's starting, but I think they are going to be leaders too, and doesn't matter if the man is gay and he's a babalao. If he's good in religion practice, it's okay. People are not going to say anything about. It's about, again, elders and youth. It's not about orishas and everything. And about period. This is a good one. So, obviously, the patriarchy just still trying to give us rules. So, if you are in your period, you can pray for orishas. It depends the way of your family see it. My family now don't care. You can do everything that you feel good to do. Because in my way, myself, for example, my example, when I'm in my period, I can do almost everything. Certain things I feel like my stomach, and I know this is my way. This is not for every woman inside Candomblé. This is the point. I think the period is something really particular for every woman in this earth. This period make us more powerful in terms of energy. The reason why men took it from us, it's because if you go and pray in a specific food or something during your period, you are bringing more energy, it's going to really work. So they try to keep us out, the prayers, because we are going to do our best of our best during this time. So it's another tricky point.
Interesting. Thank you very much. So Mona, the women enforcers and the traditional, the balancing.
Let me start with the man back there who loves me and who I love right back. Look, there is no religion on earth that in its present practice is exactly the way it was whenever that religion came about. And anyone who tells you otherwise is lying, honestly. Because, you know, there was one time, and I actually studied this because I used to do these comparative studies, where Christian women couldn't touch the Bible on their period, where a Christian woman couldn't enter a church without her hair covered in you know, with some shape or form. So, you know, we can do this about all religions. But I also have to remind you that in answering this question, I am in that, I'm caught between that rock and a hard place that Muslim women are always caught between. And I'm saying this in a country like Nigeria, where, you know, you have a big Muslim community and a big Christian community. Sometimes they don't always get along. There are stereotypes of the Muslim community. And I'm sitting here as a Muslim woman who obviously doesn't represent all Muslims, but I'm often called on to speak for all Muslims. And specifically when it comes to being a Muslim woman, there is a part of me that is very cognizant of the fact that anything I say will be used by people to demonize Muslims, yeah? You see these backward Muslims, yeah? And anything I say that is rightfully and justifiably critical of the so-called community, the community is like, shut up, Mona, you're making us look bad in front of the people out there. So I'm not caught between a rock and a hard place. But you know what? I like being caught between a rock and a hard place because I like to complicate things. I want you to understand that life is complicated and that being a Muslim woman is complicated and that being religious in today's society or identifying with a religion is complicated. So my long-winded answer to your question is, who said I have to cover my hair when I pray? Who said I can't pray on my period? And why was it said? And by who and for whom? There are so many questions. My main concern, I'm not concerned about any of this now. When I was younger, I was concerned. Because when I was younger, I had no power. Because this is paving the way for the second question now. I had no power. And when you have no power, you do as you're told. I have power now. And I will not do as I'm told. So I will ask, who said this? And why can't I do this? And if you believe in a deity, or plural, or whatever you want to describe it as, is that deity one of justice? Is that deity really obsessed with me covering my hair when I pray? Because why? Because it's going to be tempted, like all of these men are told women must be covered? Why? This is supposedly the deity that created me, right? I mean, we end up in these ludicrous conversations that I think are just nonsensical. The priority here is, how do you present yourself in front of whatever deity you worship? And more importantly, how do you present yourself to the world? How do you go out into the world? I don't want to be the person who goes out into the world and says, sister, you hurt me deeply when you prayed on your period. Fuck that. That's not the kind of person I want to be. I want to be the kind of person who goes out into the world and a 15-year-old gay Muslim girl comes up to her because she trusts her and says, what can I do? So I'm interested in justice. I'm interested in equality. That is it. And it takes me to the second question now about why women do this to women. And I talked about power when I answered the brother's question, yeah? Now I answer the sister's question. Women are not stupid. Women know what we need to do to survive. And in a patriarchal system, we know what to say and what to do and what to dress and how to behave and how to fuck and how to eat and how everything is done with an eye on patriarchy. So women, I call women like that the foot soldiers of patriarchy, because they recognize, or they are told, and they don't have enough power to fight this. And I'm not saying they don't have enough power to fight this so that I can look down on them. That's not what I'm saying. That's why I said, when you have privilege, you're obliged to fight 10 times harder, because there are many people who don't have your power or your privilege. So those women are taught that they will be protected from the crimes of patriarchy if they perform the role of foot soldier for patriarchy. So they go around and police other women. Your skirt's too short. Your hair is showing from your hijab. You didn't pray your whatever. You're late with, are you whatever, you know, all of this. I saw you out with this guy last night. Why are you fucking around? All of these questions. They are doing this because they have accepted the crumbs of patriarchy, because they've been told by patriarchy that's all you're going to get. And my answer is, I don't want the crumbs of patriarchy, I want the whole fucking cake. In fact, I don't want the cake of patriarchy, I want my own cake. So, until we have that world, until we make the impossible possible, and we dismantle patriarchy, and women are not told this lie. Because you know what? Even those foot soldiers of patriarchy are hurt by patriarchy. Look at American Christian women right now, evangelical women in America, who are showing up to Trump rallies with, grab this pussy. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a woman going to a rally saying, grab this pussy, to a sexual predator who is now the fucking president? I said I like fuck a lot. You know, when Lola told me it's the F word, I was like, yes, I can say fuck all I want. So, that woman wearing the t-shirt saying, grab this pussy, is the foot soldier of patriarchy. Here's the calculation that she made. I said the calculation is to be protected from the crimes of patriarchy, yeah? The calculation she made is, she was told, if you promote your whiteness, yeah, your whiteness in America, we will protect you. So, forget your gender. So this woman has given up power over her own body. She's lost control of her reproductive rights in return for being elevated to that highest of highs, which is the white woman in the United States, who's told you are the purest and the best, and we will protect you, basically from the black man, because that's how the United States works. Right? So you've got these white women lining up to vote for Trump, and who protects them from Trump? Who protects them from a group of white men in the White House signing away their reproductive rights? These are the foot soldiers of patriarchy. So we have to tell women, the patriarchy will not protect you, and it's time to make our own fucking cake.
Well, a wonderful, feisty note to end on. I'm ready to go out there and start challenging the patriarchy. Guys, are you with me here? But first, we're going to go and join Mona and eat some cake, all right? Lola, sort it out.
But you know the patriarchy hurts you too. You know that when you dismantle patriarchy, you too will be liberated. So, join the revolution.
Well, I would like to say to Martha, you are obviously an honorary Nigerian. In fact, you are an honorary Ogun State indigene. You have waited so long to come. Stay here for as long as you like and make sure you come back. We want to see you here next year. Thank you, Martha. Thank you, Mona. Please show them your appreciation.
So, I would like to say something important, because every time a Brazilian person go outside the country, the image of the country is, we don't have problems, but that's not the truth. Now we don't have time to talk about the patriarchy, but you know what? I came from a country, which one is under a coup, and the president was a woman. That's the point. Brazil is tricky.
Thank you.